Welcome to 8 Stories, the entertaining, uplifting, and informative podcast for people who are passionate about enriching the multifamily experience. I'm your host, Sharon Cauthen, and together, let's take an enlightening journey across the multifamily landscape, sharing innovative ideas and heartfelt stories from communities nationwide. 8 Stories is brought to you by Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. Now, let's jump into today's stories.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of 8 Stories, where we explore the ordinary and the extraordinary in the everyday. I'm Sharon Cauthen, your host, and today we're going to discuss something that is elusive, rare, and often overlooked despite the fact that it's readily available to us all. Rare and expensive things are often what people covet the most. Humanity chases rarity in all its forms. Let's consider some of the most rare and expensive things in the world. I'll throw in a little side note to say that I'm not someone who personally is excited by things that cost a lot of money. I'll give you that caveat, but I can appreciate rarity and value and beauty as ever is in the eye of the beholder. So let's start with rare coins. There are people who collect rare coins and they are really experts at knowing exactly what makes this penny more valuable than that penny and all of the things. Again, I'm not an expert in rare coins, but I appreciate the amount of passion people who are interested in rare coins have for them. So one of the very rarest is a 1933 double eagle gold coin, and it is originally valued at $20. That was the face value of this gold coin. But it has sort of a tumultuous history in that it was minted in 1933, but most of them, almost all of them, were melted down after the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. So just 1 year after these coins were created, almost all of them were melted down because of a policy change that said we have this Gold Reserve Act in 1934. However, a few escaped, making them one of the rarest coins in existence. In 2002, so just 23 years ago, one of those coins sold for $7 million. Can you imagine? That's like if I say, I will give you $21 bills if you will just give me $7 million in return. The coin was originally valued at $20, so $7 million is quite a return on investment. And I can imagine if I was a coin collector, I would be over the moon if I would ever found one or even had the chance to hold one in my hands, because you know just how rare it is. So stepping away from coins, let's go to cars. We're going to talk a little bit about the 1963 Ferrari GTO. It was a 250. It was a masterpiece from Ferrari and is among the most coveted cars in the world. It was produced between 1962 and 1964. That was the only production time. But what's even more remarkable is in that 3-year period, only 36 of these cars were ever made. Its aerodynamic design was groundbreaking, and it was powered by Ferrari's Tipo 19, I'm going to say this wrong. It was really a powerful engine, a Colombo V12 even. One of them sold in a private sale for, this was in 2018, for $70 million. That is somebody who really, really loves sexy cars. And there's no doubt that this Ferrari GTO must have been is a very attractive car and very powerful. So stepping out of coins and cards, we're going to look at art. This is a masterpiece by French impressionist Paul Cézanne, and it is called The Card Players. I've seen reproductions of this art, and it really is two old men sitting at a wooden table playing cards, and I think one has a cigarette in his mouth. So it's just this really sort of commonplace subject matter interpreted by a really talented artist and painter. It stands out not just for its aesthetic appeal, but also for the hefty price tag it fetched when it was acquired by Al Thani of Qatar, a member of the royal family, for $275 million. My dad plays cards every week. Maybe I'd get a picture of him. No, not the same thing at all. Okay. Now we're going to step away from art and go to jewels because, of course, jewels have to be somewhere in this rarity list and expensive list of things. The Cullinan diamond was extracted from South Africa's premier mine in 1905. The Cullinan diamond weighed an astonishing 3,106 carats in its rough form. It was later cut into several stones, with the two largest pieces becoming part of the British crown jewels. The diamond is valued not just for its size, but for its impeccable clarity and color. And I believe that it was acquired for $400 million. That's a hefty price tag for a not-so-humble diamond. So finally, this last category, it's a stretch because you're never going to have a chance to own this unless it someday in the future becomes junk, and even then you won't. It's not available. This is not about anyone's ability to collect it or acquire it, but really just about the price tag that we put on it in its creation. It's the International Space Station. The Guinness Book of World Records recognizes that the space station is the costliest creation in history, coming in at $150 billion. That is what it costs to create the space station. Its design and construction expenses were extraordinary, but it took 12 years to complete, and it's constantly been manned ever since, and it has welcomed astronauts and visitors from 18 nations. It's a hub for a multitude of experiments since its inception in 2000. So those are all some very pricey, in some cases, objects that you could seek to own if you were so inclined to spend that kind of money on something. But it's fascinating that if you have the money and it is something that you value that highly, then it's out there. And even if you don't want to acquire, as I said, there's still an appreciation for the fact that it's kind of cool, right? So there is one rarity, though, that's not on that list, and it's one that no amount of money can buy. It's even more rare than this. I wouldn't say more rare. It is more valuable than the space station. I will say that. And it's available to all of us. Yet it's often ignored as though it has no value at all. It's the equivalent of leaving your Ferrari GTO out in a storm under a tree, or using your 1933 Double Eagle coin to buy a bus pass. You are not attaching any value to this thing that is really your superpower. I attended a wedding a couple of weeks ago of two lovely young people who were diligent in their work to prepare for their vows and their union. They understood the seriousness of what it was that they were undertaking. The service was in an Episcopalian church, and the officiant knew the couple well because she had worked with them all through their premarital counseling, and also the bride worked for the church. And so she was delighted to perform this service for a couple who really got it and really put their value in the right place. But as she spoke the words of the service, I was so moved by some of her concepts that I started taking notes on the really fancy program that we had for the wedding, because it really was special, some of the things that she was saying. And the concept planted the seed for this episode. So the most rare thing that I'm talking about that's available to you is the undivided, focused attention of someone you care about. There's nothing more valuable, nothing more special than when you give your full attention, focused and undiverted, and someone does that for you. And it is really impossible to do this and to do it well without seeing the humanity in the other person, whether or not you agree, maybe your relationship's on the upswing and maybe it's tumbling down, but even in the midst of great disagreement, you can find commonality in this act of focused attention. And then, listen, I get it. We are bombarded with news, notifications, and opinions, and our attention has become a battleground. We are pulled and tugged in every direction by social media, by advertising, by those who live off our time and attention and money. We are constantly urged to scroll, to click, to buy. And in that environment, giving someone your full attention is like giving them the rarest thing you own. Think about it. How many times a day does your phone interrupt a conversation? How often do you find yourself half listening, your mind distracted by the next task, the next email, the next headline? It has become normal to split our focus, to be halfway present in everything we do. And yet, when you receive someone's undivided attention, no phone, no distractions, just them fully focused on you, it feels profound. It feels rare, because it is. One of the most coveted things we can offer another person is the gift of focused attention. Not just time, but attention. It's a sign of care. It's a gesture of love. It says, I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. And in a time where influencers, politicians, advertisers, and media are fighting for every second of our attention, choosing to give it freely to someone you care about is almost revolutionary. The companies that thrive off our distractions have turned our attention into a commodity. Social media platforms, streaming services, and even news outlets, they all compete for those fleeting moments when we look away from our lives and into their world. Their business model relies on our distraction. But what would happen if we resisted that pull? If instead of giving our attention to screens, we gave it to those who matter most? Imagine a day when you shut off the noise, silence the notifications, and instead truly connect with someone. Look into their eyes, hear the nuances in their voice, notice the small details in their body language. That simple act in our hyper-connected yet oddly disconnected world is like finding a rare treasure. It's both free and priceless. So as we reflect on this rare gift of attention, think about the last time you truly felt seen by someone, when you had their complete focus, or when you gave that gift to someone else. Was it powerful? I'm not naive to the fact that the many demands on our attention are sophisticated. They are smart, and they know precisely how to command our attention. It's a game of psychological warfare, and we humans are woefully unarmed for the battle. So here's my challenge to you. Over the next week, set aside time to give someone the most valuable thing you have, your time and your full attention. Whether it's a partner, a friend, a family member, or a boss, turn off your phone, quiet the noise, and just be present. You might be surprised by how meaningful it feels when you push through that discomfort, because we're so used to the pacifier of our phone with us all the time. So you have to push through that discomfort and sit in the moment. And when you do that, powerful things can happen. So perhaps in that rare moment, you'll discover something extraordinary, not in what was said, but in the silence, in the connection, in the act of simply being there. Thank you for joining me for this episode of 8 Stories. Remember, the rarest thing in the world aren't always what we expect them to be. Sometimes they're right in front of us, waiting to be cherished. And are you up for the challenge? Please share your experience with our community. We grow when we learn from each other. Until next time, I'm Sharon Cauthen, and I'll see you again soon on another episode of 8 Stories.
Thank you for tuning in to 8 Stories. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget, this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living.